Hello, and you're listening to The Book Was Better, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Paris.
And this week we're talking about Antz.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
We are back, Paris. Antz with a Z at the end.
Yeah.
Or Z.
Z.
As our American friends may say.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. I actually read this book. This is the first time I've read a book for a while after my little crisis.
Hiatus?
I feel like I'm back. We've got a schedule planned.
Yeah.
We should have episodes for at least the next month. So what better way to get back in than 1998's Antz with a Z at the end, which makes it a little bit more urban?
Yeah, but because the main character's called Z.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
So is that them being clever?
Ant Z. I thought it was just, can you think of anything in the world that hasn't been made better by a Z on the end?
No, I can't.
Or like crazy with a K? Why didn't they call this Crazy Ants? That would have been even better because it is a little bit crazy. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but oh boy, watching this for the first time in nearly 20 years, this movie's a bit of a nightmarish fever dream.
Yeah. I swear I saw it as a child, and watching it again, I think that would have given me nightmares. Like, it would have upset me. I was a sensitive child, so
yeah,
it would have been troubling for me. So that's probably why I thought it was something else, like I blocked it out, maybe.
Because it's nightmarish on a couple of different layers. One is the actual content of the story, which seems to slip into a very dark place that you're not expecting, which we'll talk about as all that unfolds. But also just the character design has to be some of the most unappealing character design in the history of animation. These things are horrific.
Yeah.
They look like burn victims.
And the amount of time that people would have had to spend looking at them, like, that's what I don't understand. I don't understand bad old animation films, because I get it now because the technology, like, seems like it's easy to just pump them out. Well, not easy, but, you know. But when this was made, it wasn't. So people had to really put a lot of time and effort into it, and that's what...
Well, that's what they came up with.
Yeah.
That's what they chose. Z looks like the troll face guy on the internet. Not appealing at all. They're very frightening. I mean, imagine one of these human size peeking through your window. You would
It still looks like
piss.
E.T.
Yeah.
But
without any charm. So, yeah, these ants are absolutely horrible. And it's pretty much impossible to talk about the film Antz without... drawing comparisons to another animated film from 1998, came out a month later, Pixar's A Bug's Life.
yeah, and when I said I was going to do this with you, I was talking to Zach and I was like, oh, that's the one with, like, the big caterpillar and the, like... I was just remembering sequences, and he was like, no, that's A Bug's Life. And everything I said, he was like, that's A Bug's Life. And I was like, I have no idea what this film is.
Yeah, so Bug's Life is the bright, colourful one where the characters are actually nicely designed.
Yeah.
Where they took some liberties. They went, okay, ants aren't blue, but does everybody want to look at a sea of shit brown for an hour and a half? No, these ants are going to be blue. They had Francis the ladybug that everyone thinks is a girl, but is a dude. Very, actually really would be quite relevant today. There's a very topical sort of thing going on there with Francis's character. It's got the stick insect. Just really great ideas, great animation. And Antz seems to be like the sort of redheaded stepchild of A Bug's Life. At least that's how I remember it, because Pixar's gone on to all these strengths. But I found it very interesting when I started to look at these films. According to Rotten Tomatoes, at least, the one that's more critically acclaimed is actually Antz.
Well, I think that would be because of the voice actors, right? Like, do you think that's a bit of a
You've got Sharon Stone, you've got Woody Allen, you've got Sylvester Stallone, you've got Christopher Walken, you've got Gene Hackman. It is an all-star Antz cast.
So they may be just, doing that critic thing.
Whereas Dave Foley of Postal was was the main guy in A Bug's Life. But Bug's Life had, like, Kevin Spacey as the evil grasshopper. And he is an amazing villain character. Whereas the villain in this is just absolute balls. It's like Gene Hackman proving that he can slum it even lower than Superman 4. So, yeah. And to give this credit, though, it is from 1998. And I didn't realise this until about 10 minutes ago. It was actually only the second American CGI animated movie ever. So this is the first one after Toy Story, which explains why I saw it in the cinema, because it was still really a big novelty at that point to see CG animation. And but even then, I didn't think these characters were appealing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, it would have been hard to make for them. Like, it would have been really hard, and I don't understand why they went with some of the things they went with if they had to, put so much effort into it. And
it's those sons of bitches at DreamWorks. And I just saw the Trolls trailer today. Have you seen that?
No.
So they got a movie on Trolls, which is like Justin Timberlake and Gwen Stefani and,
like troll dolls?
Yeah, Trolls with the colourful wispy hair.
Yeah.
And everything's covered in glitter and they shit cupcakes and stuff at one point. And the visuals are quite nice, but it proves that DreamWorks still cannot tell a story or write a three-dimensional character.
Yeah.
Like, it just looks so surface level, cliche, cloying, everyone's dancing to pop music.
And it's really easy, like, comparing animated films as well. Like, the technology's there, everything, should be at the same level, I feel like. Like with, with Zootopia, which is just, like, really smart and clever and beautiful. Like, it just seems, I don't know, it's easy to compare them.
I think it's because Pixar make timeless films.
Yeah.
They make films that don't have dated music. They don't have, like, Shrek dancing to All Star at the beginning or references to... I was watching Shrek 2 because when I went to Canberra, we were originally going to do Shrek 2 as a episode with my sisters, but didn't have time. And it's so dated.
Yeah. Like,
the pop culture references, the music, you just sort of cringe all the way through it. They talk about a bush that looks like Shirley Bassey. Like... It just does not hold up. Whereas the Pixar stuff, you can watch Zootopia in 30 years or whatever. Yeah. It's going to be... You might not get the Breaking Bad reference, but it's not... It's just like a bonus extra. It doesn't rely on it at all. It tells a story and has unique music, all that sort of stuff. So, DreamWorks just never seems to have been able to handle that. Not only that, if you think I'm being too harsh on this thing... just from a moral standpoint, this film Antz was directed by Paul Weiss and Chris Weiss, who gave us American Pie. So these are big advocates for pie fucking. And that's the sort of mindset, that's the kind of twisted, deviant mindset that gave us this film, that would put Woody Allen front and center in a kid's film, which is another really unappealing aspect of this, especially watching it now.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable.
So shall we dive into... Now we've set it up so pleasantly. We've made it sound like a really great way to spend the next hour. Shall we dive into this book, this novelization?
Let's do it.
Aimed at children. So I want you to imagine that we might be reading this to a couple of cheruby, rosy-cheeked toddlers who are there in bed, and we're like, oh, we're going to read the story of Antz to you little alternate reality children. And imagine what their reaction would be to some of this. And this is an author we've had before, Ellen Weiss. Say Weiss.
Why not?
Because it rhymes with nice.
Weiss,
and I'm sure she's a very nice lady. She's the author of just a billion books. Some of them are The Stinky Giant, Bath Time for Twins. That one actually sounds promising. It's got a picture of a lady on the front sponging the twins. You might like this one. So Many Cats.
Yay!
Kitten Castle.
Oh my God.
There's a Harold and Kumar sequel I would watch for sure. And Math in the Kitchen. What better place for it? Counting out those carrots, probably measuring things, all sorts of stuff. So, if we ever run out of novelizations, there's definitely some spin-off stuff that we could explore there. Sometimes I just like hearing these titles and thinking, well, wouldn't it be fun to just write books based on what we think they're about?
Kitten Castle.
Kitten Castle. God, can you imagine?
Do you think it's a castle made of kittens or full of kittens?
Ooh, could be both.
I'm
And they
so down for
could
that.
have a roster. So, you get to be a turret for a while and then you get to go in and play. This is the beginning of this book. And this is a bit of a classic novelization bait and switch because you think, oh, I know what this is about. But do you really?
The psychologist's office was calm and serene, and the patient lay comfortably on the couch. He had been here many times.
Outside, the jangling sounds of the big city were dimly audible.
All my life, the patient was saying, I've lived and worked in the big city, which is kind of a problem since I always feel uncomfortable around crowds and have this fear of enclosed spaces. Everything makes me feel trapped all the time. I keep telling myself there's got to be something better out there, but maybe I think too much.
He rearranged his feelers and continued. What? Now, imagine this. It's been ingrained in me from a very young age. Do not judge a book by its cover. So often I won't even look at the cover. I'll just grab a book off the shelf. I'll go in, eyes closed, just grab it, flip it open, start reading. So I start reading this and I go, big city, patient on the couch.
Yeah.
This is about people.
Yeah.
This is a very relatable story about people, about real world problems. And then they just throw in this feelers, and you know that trick they do in movies where the camera, where the background, seems to zoom away from a person when they see something startling? I feel like that was happening to me. I feel like Ellen Weiss just pulled the rug right out from under me, and all my preconceptions were turned upside down.
Yeah, I can understand that. I feel that. That.
This is a book about ants.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Ants.
Are they the only animal with feelers?
With feelers? Oh, I don't know. I think, what about things there's lots of other insects, like butterflies have feelers, right?
Well, I hope she gets into that and specifies later on.
Because it could be about butterflies.
Yeah.
You're right. Maybe I'm jumping the gun now. Just like fool me twice. I thought first it was about people. Now I assume it's about ants. You know what? I don't normally do this. I'm going to break my fundamental rule, and I'm going to look at the cover.
Do it.
Ants.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
It doesn't rule out a butterfly, though. What about whiskers on cats? You know about cats. Are they kind of like face feelers?
I'm pretty sure that they grow in comparison to their size because they use them to be able to tell they can fit through a space. Their body can fit through. So a really big cat would have really big, long whiskers. And I think if you chop one side off, they might, lose balance a little bit.
Walk around in circles.
Maybe.
Interesting.
I haven't tried it. Don't.
Don't do that at home if you... God, I hope people didn't start doing it before you said that. Because there was a window of opportunity there if people were near, And with all the millions of listeners that listen to this, the chances are, just like the million monkeys, typewriters, etc., that someone was near cats and scissors. So, dangerous. We've got to be careful about what we say. So, yes, Z, we'll say Z.
Yeah.
Is an ant, and in true Woody Allen fashion, he talks for about another page and a half about his needs as an individual, about how the whole colony system makes him feel insignificant. And the psychologist says this is a breakthrough, and the whole punchline to this scene, which happens just before the Antz title in the movie, is the psychologist says, "Yes, Z, you are insignificant." And I was going to say, well, why would a colony of like-minded ants need a psychologist? It seems like that guy wouldn't have much to do.
Yeah.
That seemed like a flaw in the film.
Yeah, he's probably just exists just for Z because he's very full of his own importance in this entire thing. So he probably just is the only one who sees him. Because
I'll suspend my disbelief in this talking ant world. Mm-hmm. But make everything fit in the premise of the world that you're giving me. And the world that you're giving me is that everybody's a happy worker or soldier.
Yeah.
So I don't get it, why this job would exist. And it looks like Ellen Weiss is also pondering this question herself, and she dilutes the film's punchline. She doesn't go like, yes, you are insignificant, turn the page, chapter 2. Instead, she says,
Ant colonies didn't really have doctors who could understand someone like Z. Ant colonies had motivational counselors, and they were just little cogs in the superorganism exactly like him.
but she's already said this is a psychologist, so what's the deal? I don't get that at all. So already everything's starting to just unravel. Which is, like, I think you've got to think of this story as a fever nightmare.
Yes.
Like, you've eaten some of those devil chili things, and you've gone to sleep, and you started to sweat, and these brown faces are hovering everywhere with no ears.
Well, that's the thing when, I mean, I guess most films, but specifically animated films, are like, we can do whatever we want, but, like, whether you should do whatever you want.
Yeah. We don't have to remind you of the wisdom of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Just because you can does not mean you should. So Z goes back to digging tunnels with all the other happy little worker ants, including our first female ant, Azteca.
Azteca was very different from Z. She was a cheerful ant, a hearty ant, a happy little part of the organism.
But was she hot? That's what I want to know. How were the feelers? Did she have a tight little thorax or a big old swaying abdomen?
Is this the one that's voiced by J-Lo?
Is it J-Lo?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I was wondering who that was. Yeah.
Goes without saying then.
God, this really is just the 90s in a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like all these people who were massive stars and aren't really that big a pull now. It's not like we're all rushing to see the new Sharon Stone movie. I'd rather see an actual stone at this point. Also, the ants reference a lot of other things that shouldn't exist in the world that the movie sets up.
Z flinched. Ow, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen, he muttered.
So we see clearly in the film that baby ants are sorted into either workers who dig holes in tunnels or soldiers who go and fight things.
Yeah.
So where do the lawyers fit into this?
Well, yeah, because it's that's the whole point of the film. They're like, no, you're one or the other. So, and like you can't sway from anything else. And even the idea of being able to file a lawsuit.
Everyone has their place.
Yeah.
Wasn't this kind of like the thing in Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Like all the babies were being pumped out on Krypton.
Yeah.
Like artificially, and they were like, oh, you're a space lawyer, you're a space farmer.
Yeah.
Etc.
Except beautiful Clark.
Yeah. Because Russell Crowe fought. He risked his own life to have a vagina baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he wanted. He was like, I ain't doing that. I'm not putting it in a vat. I'm putting it in a woman. A strong woman.
Yeah.
And off he went. Headbutted people, rode a dragonfly, everything just to protect that little baby. And he's right. So, it's a similar thing. So, in a way, Z should have been Russell Crowe.
Well, why not?
Yeah. Why not, indeed? They should have regionalised things with animated films. I know they do. Like, if you, one of the favourite ones is watch one of the Muppet movies with the voice dubs from, like, some of the Blu-rays and stuff have different languages. So you can listen to the Spanish Muppets or the French Muppets, and it's actors pretending to be these Muppets.
Yeah.
So I think, why not give us the option?
That would make things really interesting. I like that. Let's do it.
Localised cast.
Let's just redub animated films.
Yeah. Like, if Z was Australian, I would be able to relate more. Australian ant. So, Z endlessly moans and messes things up, and we get to see the villains, who, as far as villains go, do a lot of standing around doing nothing. General Mandible, who was the Iron Commander of pretty much everything, stood with his back to the foreman, staring out a window. This was not a good sign, and the foreman knew it. He was staring at that window a lot in this film. Nearby stood Colonel Cutter, Mandible's right-hand ant. So here we are, slumming it with Gene Hackman and Christopher Walken. I guess Christopher Walken did The Country Bears. He's not, like, prone to saying no to things.
Yeah, I listened to it, like, the film, and straight away you can tell it's Christopher Walken, but, like, it sounds like he had his lines on the script and he highlighted them, or he said to someone, just send me my lines. I don't need to know anything else. And because they all just sound like out of context, like, I don't know, but it could be just how he talks.
Yeah, have you heard? I've actually heard him in an interview talk about how when he gets script pages, he crosses out all the directions, all the punctuation. He just basically wants to interpret it himself. He feels really wasted, especially at the beginning of this film.
Yeah.
Like, you would assume that Walken's going to be the villain.
Yeah.
But he's more like a sort of Smithers to Hackman's Burns.
Yeah. But even, like, because I think it said on the trivia they gave him more to do, and I was like, not like, he's great, but not in this. Like, he's just,
Yeah,
why
they
would
were so
you?
impressed with him. It's like, if you've ever seen a Christopher Walken film, this should be exactly what you expected him to do. And also, it's not like, True Romance or Pulp Fiction or something we're watching here. And this whole thing, I didn't really write about it much in the notes, is this idea that he kind of switches allegiances at the end, which is, I guess, what they thought was giving him more. Still does not add up to much. So much of this book really is just the dialogue, and it's a very dialogue-heavy movie. But basically, there's word of a nearby termite infestation, and Mandible plans to send all of the soldiers who are loyal to the Queen to fight them in what will no doubt be like a suicide mission. There'll be like some kind of suicide squad. They'll go out there, they'll all get killed, and then I guess... I don't really understand Mandible's plan. We'll get into this more later. And then he'll have to create more baby ants. He wasn't satisfied with this current crop of ants.
Yeah. I think he gets rid of all the ones who are loyal to the Queen, and he was going to take over, right? And then just have his own...
Yeah, but the problem is he's already engaged to the princess, so he was going to take over anyway.
Yeah.
It's more like he looks out the window and he's like, oh, these ants, I don't like the cut of their ant head. These are pretty crappy ants. These ants are kind of a 7. I reckon we could go 8 or 9. I want to reset the ant colony. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
When you're having that many babies, you can be fussy.
God, speaking of which, here's the Queen.
In the Queen's chambers, Mandible and Cutter tried to ignore the fact that, as she conversed with them, their ruler was doing what Queen ants do. She was having babies. Not just 1 or 2 babies, loads of babies. Cute little buggers too, even if they were impossible to tell apart.
This is the most useful thing a female character does in the entire story. Popping out babies. But, look, I'm not someone that's going to be upset about anything natural. If she wants to breastfeed these babies in public or whatever, go for it.
But it's like, if that's so normal, why are they like, oh...
They're awkward
just like,
about it.
Yeah, like, keep it, just don't look below the waist. Keep it up. Like, they should just not be thinking about it.
There's something about this that feels like shitting with the door open to me. Like, it's kind of uncomfortable, They're having this conversation with her. She's got every couple of seconds, the baby is just tearing out of there. She's like a baby factory. Hot out of the oven. Rows and rows of little buns. And they're trying to talk strategy. And...
It is distracting, but I think that's, us putting our human feelings onto that.
True. Yeah. But this is the ultimate struggle with all of this, isn't it? Because you sort of go... It asks you in many ways to put your human feelings on. Like... Woody Allen's Z is very much about human feelings, which run very contrary to ant society. And there are things that you either have to go, no, we're going to treat these as humans and then feel like these are real issues, or we're going to go, no, but they're ants and they're fine with that.
Yeah. And
the movie can never decide which one of those it wants to give us. So I don't know who to feel for.
Yeah.
It was deep, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got to process that.
Yeah.
I think it's weird though that, it's not weird, I get it, like how animated films generally are always about animals.
Yeah.
Because, it's weird to make them about humans because you could just film them. But I find it, I don't know, I want to see like the long-term effects of how many kids grow up to be like vegetarian from growing up with like so many personified animals.
Yeah.
I'm vegetarian.
Was that because of any particular film?
Well, I stopped eating fish when I saw Finding Nemo.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually, when we saw Finding Dory, which I loved, I really wanted to do a seafood dinner afterwards. Like, especially, and they wouldn't do it.
But, like, I don't know. I just think that'd be an interesting study someone needs to do.
So you've got more resolve than me, because I watch these animals on screen and I think, oh, you look delicious.
Well, they haven't... Is there many films that are, like, specifically animals that you would eat? Like, cow?
There's, Disney made that cow film, didn't they? That they've kind of swept under the rug since.
I like it.
It was one of their big animated releases, but it's the one that you never hear about.
I don't remember it. It's got farm in the name.
Home on the Range, maybe? It's got Roseanne Barr as a cow, as the star of it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I need to watch that.
And it's all just cows.
Because, I mean, they do personify other stuff, but I just always found that interesting with animated films. I mean, I'll not intentionally kill an ant, but now, after watching this, maybe I would.
Yeah, I totally would.
So it's gone the other way.
I'd be scared of seeing their horrible faces. Anyway, one face that isn't horrible, apparently, is Hot Ant Princess Bala.
A door opened from one of the ant chambers, and in walked the lovely Princess Bala, heir to the Queen's throne. She walked with the assured springy step of a high-spirited, smart princess who was accustomed to getting her way.
A high-spirited, smart princess who will prove useless for the rest of this story. And voiced by Sharon Stone. And I thought this was such a missed opportunity to have a close-up of her crossing and uncrossing 2 sets of legs.
They should have, and with the kind of content that's in this as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised it wasn't written in and it just ended up on the
cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Double down on the basic instinct, for sure. And she's going to marry the far older Mandible, which was Gene Hackman. For some reason that she does not understand and that her mother fails to adequately explain, other than assuring her that soon she too will be constantly pumping out babies while everybody around her fights back the urge to vomit.
Yeah. The Queen really doesn't give an answer. Like, normally there's a reason, like, oh, we'll unite the people or whatever, or there's just like, no, he's fine, it's happening.
Don't you think this, I know this was like the second computer generated movie ever, but this would have been so much better in a way, like so much more memorable if all the actors were just wearing prosthetics and are on a set. Can you imagine how bizarre that would be?
I don't know, maybe more or less terrifying.
I think it would be it would be pure nightmare fuel, but you'd remember it. I mean, like, remember Mike Myers in Cat in the Hat and then, like, multiply that by, like, 2 million?
Oh.
Yeah. So now the ants also have a bar and all the workers are getting drunk, which is another thing that you don't see often in these kinds of films. All the way down the bar, which seemed to stretch for miles, rowdy ants were trying to get the attention of the lone bartender, a seasoned veteran who was slapping down what looked like large green beer mugs onto the bar as fast as he could. Now, again, why not get the lawyers and the psychologists and everyone to work at this bar? Because you've got 2 million workers and you've got a 2-mile-long bar and you've got one dude. You are really going to have to plan your drinks.
See, you should have just applied for another job. Like, there's so many other ones going. I don't understand the whole point of this film.
Yes. Actually, these things were aphids, little green critters that he filled up from a number of large kegs that hung from the ceiling. The kegs, in turn, were actually specialised ants with hugely swollen stomachs who sprayed liquid into the aphids. Aphid beer was a big treat if you were an ant. And Weiss has classed up the bit, because in the film, Z says he doesn't want to drink from another creature's anus, and it's replaced with rear end here. Although, I don't know, from some of the stories you hear about Woody Allen.
That was the first, like, when I put this film on last night, I was like, oh yeah, not A Bug's Life, but, you know, it'll be fine. And then when that happened, I sort of had like a, what?
It was your first alarm bell.
Yeah, I was like,
went off.
Is that, you know, there's some words where I'm like, oh, maybe it's not a swear word. Like, maybe it's a scientific word, so it's fine. But there's more later on, so.
It's, and also just the sort of context of him wrapping his lips around one is is a little full on. So Z and his friend Weaver are described as a burly but lovable soldier ant, and this is Sylvester Stallone. And did you see in the trivia, I didn't get this, it said they offered it to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And that Schwarzenegger wanted to be paid, which he's done a lot of unreasonable things in his life, but I don't think that's unreasonable. I'd want to be paid too.
Yeah. No, I saw that as well.
This was a commercial money-making venture, this film.
Does that mean they weren't paying anyone else? Like,
I don't know. It raises that question. And apparently Stallone said, yeah, I'll do it for free. Did they have like a charity drive? Antz charity drive? Anyway, Sly and Z are grossly checking out the ant girls. And then are confronted by a lunatic drunk who tells wild tales of a place called Insectopia.
the drunk was really getting emotional now, his eyes riveting the unwilling Z. Jesus. You can't understand until you go there and see it for yourself, he cried. You can be your own ant there. The streets are paved with food. Nobody telling you what to do. No wars, no colony.
Sounds like an absolute dream. And then Princess Bala crashes the bar. I was thinking, is it in disguise? It's not in disguise, but no one recognises her.
She just takes the crown off, right?
Part of the royal family. I know they all look the same, but come on. I don't want to be racist about it. You would think they would know.
And even, I mean, that means it would be so easy to just kill her and then be like, I'm the princess now.
Yeah.
Because they look exactly the same.
Just need a crown. Make your own crown.
Yeah.
Cosplay the princess. Everyone's dancing, but Z says it's just mindless zombies capitulating to an oppressive system. I do like that there are actually real words in this film, at least. It aims higher than later releases. But the lure of Bala's ripe abdomen makes him quickly forget his principles.
He was smitten. As they made their way onto the crowded floor, Z didn't break eye contact with Bala. He smiled suavely, or at least what he imagined to be suavely.
I found that in any movie, whether it's animated or not, that Woody Allen macking on someone is always gross.
Yeah. And you could tell.
It's even gross when it's like a Woody Allen cipher, like in one of those movies where it's like Colin Firth or someone who's like trying to bang Emma Stone, but he's using like Woody Allen isms, which are really manufactured to be, look at how witty and charming and self-effacing I am. Doesn't this
it doesn't
excite
come
you?
Across.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone trying that in real life. We should do an experiment.
He's a really disgusting character, and I know that he's developed into a pretty disgusting character in real life, but it really was a hero that was impossible to sort of get behind.
Even the princess as well. Like, I hated them. I just wish they'd go away. Like, I think they were meant to be like she was sassy and he was unique, and it was
Lecturous.
Just like annoying.
It's going to get worse. And he gets stood on during the dance and he says "youch," and then he tries to make it a catchphrase and sort of a dance out of it.
He tried to look as groovy as possible while clapping and youching.
She was born in the 40s, this author, and I noticed there's something about lady authors born before the 50s that they will always use the word groovy when describing dance scenes or music scenes, no matter what year it is. And he pisses off some soldiers, and because this is an American movie, it comes down to he's got to either get his punch on or be labelled a pussy.
Aren't you even going to defend yourself? Demanded the indignant princess. Z was caught between a rock and a hard place. He didn't want to get beaten up, but on the other hand, he didn't want to lose face in front of Bala.
I'd be like, sorry, Bala, you are on your own. And it gets worse. Z rolled his eyes. She really was crazy, but she was so beautiful, he couldn't let her think he was a wimp. Better a dead brave guy than a live wimp. And I'm pretty sure that is in the Constitution.
Yeah.
I think they've got that engraved on their pennies.
Yeah, oh my God. That's what we're teaching children?
I think better a dead brave guy than a live wimp was pretty much the rationale behind all of America's recent wars, was it not?
It's just weird.
So Weaver steps in, and God, violence is absolutely fun again. Look at this wonderfulness.
Weaver was right in the middle of it, cracking heads together, punching ants in the face, and having a generally great time.
I read this to my toddlers at bedtime, and you should have heard them just whooping with bloodlust for our sadistic heroes.
Cracking heads together.
Yeah, just Sylvester Stallone in ant form, covered in blood and acid, because ants, of course, have that smelly acid in them.
Do you know...
Just loving it.
And the smell of dead ants attracts other ants.
Is that so that, do they eat them, or do they take their bodies away, or do they just hang out there?
I think because ants communicate by smell.
Yeah.
And then if you crush one, it's just all the smells at once. And one of them is like an alert smell. So the other ants come and they're like, what's going on? What's going on here? So, yeah, just be careful. You never know. A whole tribe. It's a tribe colony.
Up. Yeah. funeral rites. And Bala has to leave, and for some reason she gives Z a peck on the cheek.
To Bala, this little kiss was nothing, but to Z, it was a life-changing experience. He watched, stricken with anguished adoration, as Bala rushed off through the brawling crowd with her handmaidens.
And thus an ant stalker is born. He mistakes this mild act of affection for a declaration of undying love, and now is going to do a lot of dodgy stuff in order to get closer to this girl that he barely knows and doesn't really have any interest in him. Mm-hmm. And I think all this bloodlust really got to Ellen Weiss too, because I felt like she'd gone into a sort of an animal state and had forgotten how to write by the end of this chapter.
Pow! Somebody punched him, but good. Lights out. What?
Yeah. She done right this but good. Weiss out.
Like good. She was like, good. Someone punched him, or like they punched him. Good.
They punched him, but good. Yeah. Was it? Yeah, but it was good. So that's fine. That makes sense. More pages dialogue, the gist of which is that the Queen is going to be inspecting all the best soldiers, so Z wants to swap places with Weaver so that he gets to see the princess again. And apparently no one will notice, even though workers and soldiers are completely different character models. They're not even the same build in any sense.
Flawless.
General Mandible stood on the reviewing stand, looking over the troops and slapping his thigh with a swagger stick. And I just thought, well, what is a swagger stick? Why don't I have one? Maybe I do have one, and I don't even know it. What is that slapping against my thigh? But then, uh-oh.
Mandible had stepped up to the microphone and was slapping his thigh with that stick again, squinting at it. Z realised it was an antenna, probably the antenna of some unfortunate insect who had irritated the general.
So this would be like me walking around slapping my thigh with my vanquished enemy's torn off arm.
It feels almost like weirdly sexual. Like, why does he still have it? Why is he...
Like Tommy Wiseau rubbing the red dress on his crotch. Yeah. Moments too late, Z realises he's actually marching to war against the termites and will probably be killed horribly. Though, violence has not lost its fun, right? Literally.
The song continued. We ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah, we slaughter termites just for fun, hurrah, hurrah.
Who hasn't enjoyed slaughtering the enemy at some point? And this book is full of propaganda. And the new friend, who's soldier called Barbatus, he's not very reassuring either. Barbatus smiled grimly. Not really, kid. They're 5 times our size and shoot acid from their foreheads. But of course, it was from their anuses. They probably drink it, so hypocrites. And then shit gets real, like Starship Troopers real, like this battle.
Yeah.
You know, if you've just been going, oh, yeah, odd little kids movie, you're just like, fuck. This thing is hardcore, and I thought she'd really pull back from it in the book, but not really.
And then the termites were upon them. Before there was time to think, before there was time to react, they were in the middle of a massacre. the ants had broken into the colony, but they did not have the advantage of surprise. They were already taking heavy losses from the gigantic, blind, acid-spewing termites.
The battle scene was chaotic. Both sides were taking losses. A squad of ants rushed towards a termite soldier, but they were melted into smoking heaps of flesh by a jet of acid from the termite's forehead. Nearby, a termite warrior was overwhelmed by a crowd of ants and pulled to pieces with hideous ripping sounds. Ant soldiers were having their heads slowly crushed by huge termite jaws. Shit!
Do you think, like, because like I was saying before, the animated films are generally animals or even toys. Like, would they have done this with any other animal other than ants? Because the ant is like the least sympathetic animal. Like, you wouldn't just go, oh, I just stood on a kitten, you know?
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, you would think, having looked at her bibliography, that this is quite a departure for Ellen Weiss. Unless there's some real Game of Thrones shit happening at the kitten castle. And, there's like a little kitten Jamie Lannister standing down by the drawbridge going, let me in. And then like Blackfish kitten up the top going, get fucked. And then, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
Because, no, I think even the toys were better treated than this.
Yeah. But like, that's the same thing. It's like, if you want us to have feelings and feel towards these characters, this is going to, like, terrify and haunt young children.
Yeah,
like,
if we're treating them like people.
Yeah.
Having their heads slowly crushed by termite jaws while we watch is not great. And then it goes this extra step here, because Z blacks out and he wakes up in a body-strewn battlefield and...
Barbatus, said Z, hopefully. Z followed the voice, picking his way over the bodies. There he was. Z's heart sank. It was Barbatus, but it wasn't all of him. It was just his head.
Yeah. So shit got dark real quick. You have Z literally walking around talking to Barbatus's severed, dying head.
Yeah, and he's all hopeful. Like, he's like, well, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
You'll be fine.
Walk it up.
Yeah. Which is insensitive to someone without legs. So, helplessly Z scanned the battlefield, trying to distinguish Barbatus's body parts from the others that were strewn in tangled profusion nearby. And, Barbatus's severed head tells him not to follow order his whole life and to think for himself. And then he dies. I had a little bit of a thought about the sort of politics about all of this. This idea of you got to think for yourself and not just be a worker, and you have to, live your own dream, basically. And I feel like this is coloured by the kind of TV I watch, like that I'm sort of morbidly fascinated with, like Shark Tank and The Profit, where it's about the American dream and, why don't you take control of things and start your own business and do your own thing, and you can make money and you can be a success and et cetera, et cetera. And also that sort of idea of you need to be happy in your job. You need to create a circumstance where you love what you do or you're not successful. And I read this great article, I can't remember where it was, but it was talking about how basically that's just such a huge amount of bullshit, because it's such a privileged position to come from, and society doesn't function without all of those cogs. Like, somebody has to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And someone like Steve Jobs or whatever can come out and go, well, you've got to love your work and live your dream and all that sort of stuff. But his dream doesn't work without billions of faceless people getting paid fuck all building the things in the first place.
No, that's true.
And I always think that in Shark Tank or something, where they're like, you've got to make it, you do this, we're going to do this, and you're going to live the dream. But then they're talking about, all right, now we need a way to do this cheaper, so we're going to pay people $11 an hour to crank out this stuff for you. And we're going to, like, work them like fucking slaves. And you think, and I guess the argument is, well, look, if they want the dream, then they need to go and do it as well. But then if everybody does it, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
Because you need the cogs. Well, so it's unrealistic to be dissatisfied, because 95% of people, probably 99%, am I right, are dissatisfied, like, are being the cogs.
Yeah. No, that's really...
And have to be.
Yeah, I guess if you're not... You got to be unhappy in your job, so then you spend all the money on shit so you keep it going as well.
Well, it's not about necessarily your work time. Your work time is there to, fund and fulfill the rest of your time. That's why it's so crazy in places like America where you hear that, they don't have holiday days or whatever. They might just, get Christmas off. They don't get paid holidays. They get
really?
6 weeks paid holidays this year. And they don't get any.
That's true.
They don't get maternity leave. Imagine how that queen would cope. She's popping out a baby every couple of seconds.
Get back to your job at McDonald's, queen.
So what I'm saying is that this ant is full of shit.
Yep.
Anyway.
Entitled shit.
Moment of silence for Barbatus's severed head, and then it's the colourful photo section, and look at all these nightmare visages of hideous brown, same-ish looking ants.
I don't like it.
I know, it's pretty terrifying.
Look at that one. Look at that soldier one.
Oh, look at Walken one.
Look at him.
Yeah.
He looks malnourished.
He's a hideous lead character. He really is the worst animated character in the history of anything.
Is there toys?
There are, yeah, I looked that up.
Like...
Short-lived, I imagined.
Well, you just get one and then you've got them all.
Yes, pretty much. So, meanwhile... Weaver is digging, and really digging Azteca.
Weaver went into overdrive, really getting into it now. Oh yeah, big guy coming through, he's saying out. Love it.
Sylvester Stallone said the exact same thing on his sex tape. And then Z returns a war hero, and the crowd cheers with unbridled bloodlust.
This was all too much for him. Not long ago, he'd been in the middle of a scene of an unimaginable carnage. He had watched thousands of good ants die, and to one of them he owed his life.
So yeah, dark. He's got some sort of shell shock, some stress disorder after the horrors of war that he has seen. But of course, sex trumps war. Z quickly forgets all the horrors when he meets the Queen and Princess Bala.
Z had gone way past stupid. He gave Bala what he thought of as a sexy sort of growl. The Queen simply ignored it.
And it's really stuck out to me in the book. I mean, the film. That's about the words and saying things and smart man, but good.
Yeah.
No, this really stuck out in the film because, she's like, and this is my daughter, the princess, and he's like, and you think, what a horribly inappropriate thing to do.
Yeah.
Like in front of the Queen, no less.
Why would she simply ignore it as well? Why is she just like...
And she's the Queen.
Yeah.
But that would be wrong in any situation where a mother's like, here's my daughter, and you make her, oh, good, I want to sex her growl. Not cool.
So creepy.
He's a creepy dude.
I know I've said this a few times, but animated films are, they're not... Normal films are hard to make, and there's easily shitty ones, but did someone not have to, edit and listen to this and go, okay, this is the part where there's the weird growl, and no one thought, is this not funny? They would have had to go over it and look at it so many times. I don't understand how no one brought up how weird it is.
Ladies had no agency in 1998. They just didn't. That was their goal, was to be rescued and coveted. And then about a page later, Bala finally recognises him and blurts out about her secret trip to the bar, and Mandible fears being cuckolded by the obviously charming Z and demands that he is arrested, but then Z...
He's taking her hostage, she screeched. No, I'm not, Z protested. And then he changed his mind, realising she was his only ticket to getting out of this alive. I mean, yes, I am. He tightened his grip around on Bala, who struggled mightily. One more step and the princess gets it, Z threatened, snatching up a canopy and holding the toothpick to her throat.
And this really is the moment when an already shitty hero becomes completely irredeemable. He was already a jerk when he was rude. But the fact that he's threatening to stab the princess's throat and kidnapping the lady that he was stalking
Yeah.
just means that in my mind, no matter what he does from now on, I can't be on his side.
You think, at this point I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, there's no way they're going to be, like, love interests. That's not possible.
Yeah, he's kind of blown that. He closed that door when he tried to stab her in the throat. So the idea that, yes, later she may indeed fall in love with him is completely irresponsible in terms of the screenwriting. So, yeah, fuck you, Antz. So they fall down a garbage chute into the wilds where they're going to have some fun episodic adventures with some unusual characters, I'll bet. And the soldiers chase them, and she's all like, even though she looks like she could beat the shit out of this guy, she's all like, oh, here they come to rescue me, and they're going to kill you, and come and save me. But...
And then, skimming across the ground, came a shaft of brilliant light, which seemed to be emanating from the clear disc. It was brighter than anything the Antz had ever seen. It was dazzling, like a pillar of the purest white fire.
So if your kids didn't know that they can start a fire with an ordinary magnifying glass, they sure do now. So put down the 3DS, kids. There's a burning afoot. Very cheap way to entertain yourself. And the soldiers are horrifically burned to death because nobody's been horrifically murdered in the last couple of minutes, leaving Bala and Z lost.
When she saw that he was following her, she wheeled and turned on him. Why are you stalking me? Don't you realize that I am out of your league? Okay, Z said to himself, revising, not just self-centered, spoiled.
Oh, yeah, she's the one that's in the wrong. And then...
You're the one who was cruising the worker bar looking for action, he reminded her. What?
You're slut-shaming her. This is an ant slut-shaming another ant.
Look, how dare she, a woman, go to a bar in general, full stop.
Yeah, looking for action is an assumption on his part. That's not what she stated she was doing. She had a pretty tame dance, if we recall.
She did kiss him on the cheek.
Well, what a harlot. But they get over their spat pretty quickly when they realise that they may be close to the fabled Insectopia. So they head off to find that, and meanwhile, the stories of Z have started a revolution back in the colony.
Mandible stood in the mega tunnel frowning. He was observing a group of workers who had stopped work and were sitting down chanting. Sitting down and chanting seems like...
Lazy, half-assed.
Z, 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 they went. More and more workers were throwing down their tools and joining them in the sit-down strike.
And we've already talked about why this doesn't work. We need some cogs in the machine. But then Mandible quickly convinces them, no, dig the tunnel instead. And then they chant his name. So, fuck these fickle ants. I don't know whose side I should be on. And then Z and Bala find a picnic.
Wowee! Big white squares of soft, flat stuff with other stuff in the middle. Z immediately started to dig in. Insectopia, this was the life. But something was wrong. The white things with stuff in between were protected in some way by a thin layer of shiny clear stuff.
So he knows what a lawyer is, but is completely mystified by a sandwich. But then I thought, it's not a hamburger. It's not a piece of pizza.
That's true.
It's not a hot dog.
Yeah.
Maybe Americans, when faced with this sort of stuff, do use this terminology. Look at one of the big white squares of stuff with the things in the stuff
green
inside.
Stuff in the middle.
And then, look, if your patience was being tried already, Muffy and Chippy turn up. They're a couple of wasps. Chippy is Dan Aykroyd. And they're kind of high-class, snobby wasps. They call each other names like Poopsie. And they refer to Bala as Eurotrash. Which, again, it seems well beyond the world that is being presented here. And they look on the Antz as a charity project. And they might even start, getting it on in front of them. They're getting a little bit friendly.
My big, strong pheromone factory, Muffy purred.
You're my Muffy Lovekins, he buzzed. And it's short-lived. In this gruesome story where somebody is definitely hideously murdered every couple of pages, Muffy literally lasts about a page and a half, and which is kind of dark when you think about these two are so in love, life partners, doing everything together, and then
Meanwhile, Muffy had buzzed over to where the food was to get a snack for her needy little friends. She was so intent on finding something good, she did not notice the giant swatter that was whooshing through the air toward her. Wham! Chip flew to the side of his fallen mate. "Oh, Muffy, no! Oh, no!" he wailed. But she didn't move. She was squished.
Yeah, that one upset me probably more than some of the other ones. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just so uncalled for.
Yeah, no, that one was pretty sad. Like, at least kill them both.
And they're the comic relief characters that kind of come in, you know, like... even in Pixar's kind of crappier movies, like The Good Dinosaur, there's points during the episodic adventure where they meet just eccentric characters
Yeah.
where you go, oh, this is cool, this is funny. But they don't get murdered, like, within a couple of seconds. So, come on, Antz. Then even more horror, as Z and Bala are almost murdered by a giant shoe. They don't know what that is either.
No.
Because their fancy lawyers don't have shoes. And meanwhile, Weaver is getting a good old-fashioned USA interrogation.
General Mandible stood in his chambers. In the centre of the room sat Weaver, tied to a chair, his face looking dreadful. It had been punched many times. Cutter stood by, just watching the interrogation.
That's how they do things, even in the ant world. These ants are a very chilling reflection on our own species. And then Bala and Z find the real Insectopia, which is basically a big pile of shit.
There it was, just as they had dreamed it would look. No, better. All the stuff to eat an insect could want. Just there for the taking. No armies, no wars, no megatunnel, just garbage. Garbage, garbage, as far as the eye could see. They danced in it, they slid down it, they ate and drank there to their heart's content.
Yes, that's the real American dream, eating garbage.
Is that the part of the movie where it's that weird song? Montage?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, what was the song? That's really gonna bug me. It was like this just weird old song and it's like a montage of them being in love.
Yeah, probably is. That's probably like Toy Story 2 is such a great movie, but when Jessie sings that song about, that's when you go for a piss.
Yeah.
So they settle in with the other Insectopia residents. Ellen Weiss unfortunately shies away from that hilarious scene where the fly eats shit.
Yeah.
You know?
And they say crap in it as well, right?
And it's like Sharon Stone calls Cutter or someone a tight ass as well at one point. Weird film. And basically we're in the point now where it's all third act nonsense. We're skimming through. Bala is kidnapped back to the colony by Cutter, and Z has to fly back there on a drunk Dan Aykroyd, full of Crystal Skull vodka. Not our first drunk character. Everybody's drinking or murdering in this thing. We also find out Mandible's plan. The ants are going to dig the tunnel into a lake and all drown, and then he will lead a new colony of ants. But we've already established that ants are all the same. And he was already going to lead with the princess.
Yeah, and also, why did he send that group of loyal ants, to die? If they're going to kill, he's going to kill every single other one anyway.
Yeah, I don't get it. He already, just the fact that he was engaged to the princess and she was going to go through with it, he'd already won.
Yeah.
Well, so, who
Overkill.
knows? And Z rescues Bala, who has some mad Stockholm syndrome going on.
Bala pulled him towards her. "You talk too much," she said, kissing him.
The classic trope of the female character in the third act just suddenly deciding for no reason, I'm going to start kissing the guy because why not? Does not make sense. And we've talked about the Stockholm syndrome before, which is that thing where you watch enough of a movie or TV series or whatever, you start to become attracted to one of the cast members.
Okay.
So you weren't originally, but you just watch enough of it that you end up picking somebody.
Yeah.
I realised this phenomenon during, it was during the Sydney Olympics, and I was watching Simpsons marathons on Foxtel, and I was, I'd split up with my girlfriend for about 8 weeks, and I was living by myself, and for the first time in my life, Marge Simpson started to look and sound really attractive.
When she's got her hair wet, she's super attractive.
Yeah, and she did Playboy as well. People don't remember that. But, so I got to say, though, I could watch this film 1,000 times and Sharon Stone's aunt is not going to become appealing to me. She's terrifying.
Yes.
And water starts to flood the tunnels. Everything's getting intense action times.
They all started stampeding away from the wall. Behind them, the water was starting to make a huge crack in the wall. The spray was becoming geyser.
Geyser? Yeah.
The strong voice...
Not a geyser.
The strong voice of the Queen ran through the mega tunnel. "Everyone listen to me," she said into the microphone. "We've all been deceived. We need to calmly head towards the exits."
Ants have microphones. They don't have sandwiches or shoes, but they have microphones. Z saves all the ants by making an ant ladder or some sort of gubbins that climb around on top of each other.
He realises teamwork,
yeah.
That's what you need.
What if everyone was doing their own thing?
Yeah.
Huh? Where's your ant ladder now? If everyone's living the ant dream.
It was too late for Mandible to check his momentum. He crashed into Z, and they both went spinning down into the hole, into the flood below. On the way down, Mandible was thrown against a sharp ledge, a blow that proved fatal.
And I think that's our final murder for the book. So hooray for ants. Bala and Z share more revolting kisses. It's really off-putting to see these ants' faces, but when two of them are rubbing up against each other, it's even worse. Z whines on about how virile he is, really uncomfortable stuff there. He even gets a kiss on the cheek from the Queen for some reason.
Is he...
And here's the ending, and I haven't read this yet, so here we go. And that was that. It all certainly made a good story. Debatable. Sometime later, when Z sat in the shade of a dandelion with his old friend Chip, they'd run into each other when Z was taking a little walk in the direction of the monolith, which was a bird bath, just for old time's sake. And there he'd found Chip buzzing about with his new girlfriend, Letitia. Oh, God, too soon. Muffy, never forget. And there you have it, Z told Chip as he finished up the tale. Your average boy meets girl, boy likes girl, boy changes underlying social order story. He paused a moment. So we rebuilt the colony. It's even better than before because now it has a very large swimming pool. Bala and I, incidentally, are thinking of starting a family. Just a few kids, 1 million or 2 to begin with. Chip nodded sagely. I've got a great new therapist, Z continued. He's been helping me get in touch with my inner maggot. I finally feel like I found my place, and you know what? The funny thing is, it's right back where I started. The difference is, this time I chose it. At least kind of references the fact that nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
We're back where we began.
I like how they skim over, like, boy meets girl, boy kidnaps girl.
Boy threatens to stick a skewer in girl's throat. And way up in the tall buildings that circled their world, the people looked down into Central Park, unaware that they were looking down toward the ant who had single-handedly started a revolution and saved his whole colony. It all happened in New York, home of Cloverfield's, Loki's, Raphael, all those things.
Crazy ants.
Yeah, Central Perk it didn't happen in Central Perk. That would have been more exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were in Jennifer Aniston's cleavage all along. Crikey. So I do have to ask, Paris, because I always do, was the book better?
I say yes, because you didn't have to see it.
You didn't have to look at the ants.
Yeah.
You could, well, in your case, you could imagine the pretty blue ants of A Bug's Life.
Yeah. So,
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I agree. Book has it. And it was quicker, I think, as well, than watching the film. There were no Amazon reviews, but there was a Goodreads review. And Goodreads is kind of the Wild West. And I thought this was interesting because you might think during this little review of the book of Antz and the film of Antz that there's perhaps an elephant in the room that we haven't addressed. And I think this review sums it all up kind of nicely.
I'm excited.
Aha, I just remembered this is my favourite book for a while back when I was 8. I don't remember much about the book's quality other than it was a pretty faithful adaptation of the movie. I do remember having a weird crush on the main character Z, and I remember asking my mum what Woody Allen was like since he voices Z in the movie, and I was really upset when she told me he was basically a big nerd. The fact that Z was pretty much Woody Allen in ant form is hilarious in hindsight. Guess it was best that my heart was broken early before I learned he was a gross dude that married his own adopted daughter and a pedophile that sexually abused his girlfriend's adopted daughter and then married another of said girlfriend's other adopted daughters. Poor children, sad face, poor Mia Farrow.
What?
That's a good review of Antz, isn't it?
What?
Yeah.
Because at the start I was like, oh, it's probably a joke, but he's They are so sincere about having their
Yeah.
heart broken.
So,
That's
so maybe Antz is a thing of the past. Maybe this is one of those films that is better off forgotten.
just like, it didn't feel like a weird fever dream before.
Yeah.
It does now.
At least it didn't have Bill Cosby in it as well. Starring Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson.
I feel I need a shower.
After Antz.
Yeah.
An ant shower. I know, I feel like they're crawling all over my skin. So, there you go. That was Antz with a Z.
Yep.
This it's got its place in history, I suppose.
Yeah, as not A Bug's Life.
It's not A Bug's Life, yeah.
I need
see?
to watch it. I need to watch A Bug's Life just to like palate cleanser.
Bug's Life is a pretty ordinary story. Like, it's the same story as Chicken Run,
Yeah.
which came out like just after it as well.
Yeah.
Of that whole idea of we're just performers, but they think we're heroes, and now we have to actually go up against the bad guy, and we're going to build some sort of flying bird thing. I think that happens in both of them.
Yeah.
But the characters are cool.
Yeah.
They're really enjoyable.
It's fun. Chicken, that's an animal you eat that was personified in a film.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel bad about that.
Yeah. They even talk about it. They work in a pie. They get turned into pies.
I got to admit, like, this is a Game of Thrones spoiler. You watch Game of Thrones?
I don't, but I listen to it while I'm on the internet, so I feel like I know the story.
I'd be really vague. But when I first saw that pie the other day, I was like, that looks good. Anyway, any animal you could eat, what would you eat?
I don't eat any animals.
You don't eat any animals.
Yeah. I mean, I do, like, I want to eat animals.
Are there, like, but if you could, like,
If I was like,
yeah, you had to eat an animal.
well,
Dolphin?
I am really scared of sloths.
Yeah.
So, and I just hate them, and, like, I hate their long fingers. So, like, I'd probably eat a sloth just to
So
stick it to them.
It's not a pleasure thing for you, it's more of a spite.
Yeah, it's
sort of
spite,
thing.
eat a sloth.
See, I want to eat all the animals. Like, over the road at the pub, they've just put in this, like, tapas plate, which is, like, a crocodile sausage, a camel sausage, it's, like, duck spring rolls.
Yeah. I feel like eating crocodile is like a,
You would get their powers.
yeah, well, it's like a, what's the word? You're like a power thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if I saw you in the wild, I'd shit myself, but now I'm eating you.
Yeah, how do you like that, crocodile?
Yeah. No, that's true. No, I didn't, yeah, I'd eat a sloth.
And I really liked, I like eating emu and kangaroo. If I had a restaurant, I would serve a coat of arms, which was like an emu steak and a kangaroo steak
Yeah.
on the same plate, and it would cost 50 cents. I'd be bankrupt really quickly. But
The novelty.
imagine the press. It would be great. So there you go. What animal would you eat, dear listener? What celebrity would you eat? Let us know on our Facebook page. You can go to fruitlesspursuits.com to find links to everything else, like FPcast, where we reviewed Independence Day, Resurgence yesterday. Book was better, should be back for probably at least until my birthday. I might take a week off for my birthday. A month off for my birthday. But no, next week I believe the old Hector Wiese is coming back for an episode. I can't remember what book we're doing, but you will find out. It will be a surprise. And rate, review, iTunes, Patreon, Facebook, discuss things, stuff.
Do the thing. Do the thing.
But good.
But good.
But good. Anything we missed? That's all the boxes are ticked. That's everything we had to do. We've done.
Yep. No, I'm happy.
You happy?
Yep. I feel like now I've got this Antz thing out of my system. I'm never going to accidentally watch it thinking it's A Bug's Life, so I can, like, bury it. Like, that's
Yeah.
it now.
I feel like history has kind of buried it to a degree. I don't know if it's that sort of film. Like, I don't know if we went to JB Hi-Fi right now, we could go and buy a Blu-ray of Antz.
No, I did ask Zach to buy it, but luckily it was on Netflix, so I didn't have to waste money
Yes,
on
I
it.
watched it on Netflix as well. It is on Netflix if you want to see. Yeah. Let that be really a lesson to future guest hosts. Like, don't buy any of these films. Or don't buy any of these books. And really, like, the combination of reading my notes and watching the trailer will probably carry you through. So, yeah. Aim low.
Good ending.
Yeah. There we go. The end. Fuck off. Do you want to say the thing about the flips and stuff?
Catch you on the flips.
Aunt Manji. Aunt Manji.